fun one in Philly. Now it's time for Packers Week as the Bears are going to see Green Bay twice in the matter of 13 days because it is a Saturday primetime game in 2 weeks here in Chicago. But let's focus in on going to Lambeau. It's an exciting one. I'm Cassie Carlson alongside Luke Canellis and Anthony Herron. And looking at where these two teams stand right now, mainly the Bears being first place in the NFC, which everyone is going to harp on until it changes. Does this feel like one of the biggest Bears-Packers matchups you can remember in recent history?
I'll tell you what, for me, it goes back to 2013, December 29th, 2013, Bears-Packers, final game of the regular season, and a chance for the winner to go to the playoffs because they are going to win the NFC North. And then Aaron Rodgers throws the dagger in my heart and every Bears fan's heart out there when he hit, yes, Randall Cobb. 48 yards, 48 seconds left. He had come back from his broken collarbone that he suffered in the opener against the Bears to torment us Bears fans again. And the Packers went to the playoffs, played in the wild card round against San Fran, and the Bears went home. This is the biggest game since 2013.
I mean, you guys know I'm not prone to much hyperbole, usually. I like to see tangible evidence, watch things grow a bit.
Step out. Will you step out a little bit?
This is perhaps the biggest game in the history of Western civilization. I do think it's safe to say that. There's not much that could really outshine what we're going to watch, not only this week, but like Cass mentioned, a couple of weeks from now, with the Bears facing the Packers 2 out of the next 3 games. And we knew that this rivalry was going to continue to be historic because it always is. But when you factor in the fact that, yes, the Bears have first place right now in the NFC, not in the division, not in the NFC North, the #1 seed right now in the NFC. And I'm sure many of you remember, I know the Packers remember, a little smack was being talked initially by the head man of the Bears prior to the season when he first got this gig. So both squads are ready.
All right, this is a crazy stat. The first time since 1932, both the Bears and Packers are meeting each other with a 700 win percentage, and first place in the division is on the line. The craziest thing is the Bears can drop from first place in the NFC to as much as 7th if they do get a loss up at Lambeau. So there's so much buildup for the game between these two storied franchises.
You love rivalries. I've been in some cool, fun rivalries throughout my career so far, whether it's NFL or college. And so they're always fun. They always come down to, it's an emotional game. It always comes down to, the final minutes.
This is a huge week for this organization, this city. Obviously, there's a lot of history behind the Bears and the Packers. Personally, I'm not trying to make it anything more than what it is. It is the most important game of the season, but it's only because it's the next game. And honestly, I'm manifesting this is not going to be our biggest game of the year, regardless.
And I know it's hatred. They're getting talked about all the time. Anyone you talk to, it's always beat the Packers, So I understand the rivalry, and I know how important it is to my team, coaches, staff, owners.
There you're hearing from rookie Colston Loveland. And one neat thing about the Bears is we know George McCaskey hates the Packers. He actually holds a seminar with all the rookies every year to just let them know how big of a deal the rivalry is between these two teams. And Big Ant, you mentioned it. Let's add some more fuel to the fire because in Ben Johnson's opening press conference, he named Matt LaFleur, someone he doesn't really have a relationship with, and said, I kind of like beating him 2 times a year. Now it's going to be at Lambeau. It's going to be bitter cold. They moved this to a 3:25 game on Fox. This has all the makings of a good one. And for the Bears offense, going up against what Ben Johnson called maybe the best defense they've seen all year.
It's a real good defense. It's even better at home at Lambeau Field, where they are allowing just 13 points a game. And they're without their best defensive lineman, Devontae Wyatt, who in the middle of that defensive line really is a factor when it comes to stopping the run. I get it. We all talk about Micah Parsons. You run at a guy like Parsons, he's great at rushing the passer. He's not great at defending the run. And also Lucas Van Ness, part of that defensive line, an edge rusher. He's been dealing with a bad foot for a long time, Big A, so he's not in the lineup either. They're susceptible. You can take advantage of those injuries on that defensive line that the Packers have.
It is a Packers group that's been banged up throughout the season, but they do have a pass rush that can really get home, not only with Parsons, but with Rashawn Gary as well. And it's a really complete defense. That to me is what's unique about this challenge because, you know, the Steelers had excellent edge rushers, but then they had linebackers who you could kind of focus on and maybe a secondary that you could scheme up against. And we've seen here where just recently, the last game, the Philadelphia Eagles have a very active defensive front. They've got a secondary that can do things, but for whatever reason, their defense hasn't played well consistently here recently. For Green Bay, they can get it done up front off the edge. They've got linebackers who know what they're doing. They've got a secondary that can disguise and take the ball away. So overall, every level of this Green Bay defense, especially with what they have for their defensive coordinator, a defensive mind who can really confound you. Sometimes they're blitzing, sometimes they're not. A lot of disguise to the way that they operate. So to me, this is one of the more complete defenses the Bears have faced all season.
But does the run game for the Bears travel? Is that the key to getting this offense going? Because they rushed for 281 yards against the Eagles defense, and that's a defense going in that no one thought the Bears would be able to do what they did against them, and Vic Fangio in particular. Is that the key to victory if you're looking at how this Bears offense can unleash? And I think, too, this is a bigger conversation for the offensive line and how they're carrying this offense in that run game right now.
Throw to score, run to win. Yes, I think that the run game travels, your defense travels, especially at this time of the season when the weather is iffy, when it's super cold like it's going to be on that frozen tundra. And we have seen in their 2 losses at home, Cassie, man, their defense played well enough to win those games, but still, Rico Dowdle for Carolina ran for $130 and 2 touchdowns against that real good Green Bay defense. And the Eagles, in their, 10-7 victory over the Packers, rushed for over 100 yards. So they're real good, as Big A mentioned, at going after the quarterback. But if you don't fall behind and aren't forced to throw, I think you put your offense in a pretty good position.
It's one of the top run defenses in football while also being one of the top pass defenses in football. And the Bears' run game traveling is a part of it. But one of the things that's been so excellent about the Bears' run game is the way that Ben Johnson can scheme it up. The Bears can utilize motion so effectively to free up run lanes for both Kyle Monangai and DeAndre Swift. And both of them are running with force, with urgency. And I feel like they're feeding off of each other really well. You combine that with the talents up front on the offensive line, and that's where they've been able to vault up into one of the top 2 rushing attacks in the sport. So it's a great position to be in, but this is a defensive front. Yes, without Wyatt in the middle, they are a bit more shorthanded, but they've been able to be really formidable against most of the run offenses that they faced this season, and that's where the combination of the Bears' run game and the passing attack really have to combine forces.
All right, let's talk about the passing attack because Ben Johnson called out wanting to see the passing game take a step forward, saying they were losing in spite of the passing game on Monday. Then on Tuesday, he said he wanted to clarify that that wasn't an indictment on Caleb Williams, who he believes is managing the game really well. And he said it's receivers and their route details. It's Caleb Williams giving what they're calling a runner's ball, something that they've complimented Jordan Love on having. But can this team sustain what they're doing and getting these wins without the passing game as they go through this stretch run of December?
I think so far they have shown, yes, they can right now. And we've been caught up in completion percentage because the head coach got into completion percentage when we first talked to him, and he said that the goal for Caleb Williams was 70%. He wasn't even 50% last week in a win against Philadelphia. And Big A, the numbers don't lie in my opinion. In the games in which he has not completed 60% of his passes, forget about 70, they're 8-0. And in the games in which he has completed over 60% of his passes, they're 1-3. I think it's something that they need to work on during the offseason. I'd like to see him be more effective with the short pass game. I think he's missed a number of guys with the short pass game, but it's not something that I'm worried about right now as we get ready for, 2 of the biggest games over the next 3 weeks.
And part of the reason the Bears have been the most explosive offense in the sport is because there's a lot of verticality to their passing attack. So when you're throwing the ball deep, that's usually going to impact the completion percentage of that quarterback. Now, it's multifaceted here where Caleb himself, we've talked about the accuracy and some of the inconsistencies there throughout the season, but there were multiple examples in the game last week where Caleb threw perfect passes. He had receivers slipping like Luther Burden, DJ Moore coming out of breaks. Those frequently enough can end up being interceptions when you got a receiver who who's not at the landmark they're expected to be. You got a quarterback who's trying to throw with rhythm and anticipation between a talented secondary. So those are things that not only Caleb, but the pass catchers have to get cleaned up as well. But the fact that the Bears are willing to throw the ball vertically so frequently, that's also a factor just in the overall completion percentage of this Bears offense. So you hope for more, but I do believe the way that Ben Johnson combines the passing attack with screen game and with the vertical pass, that's a part of what opens up these windows for the run game.
Going back to you, Big Ant, how do the shifts in motions that we saw a lot of in Philly play into the Bears' favor as well on offense?
It puts defenders in conflict. The linebackers, the secondary players, when they see a player like DJ Moore flashing color across their face, or a tight end coming in motion, or Luther Burden, you have to honor all these different things because they all end up getting the football. It's one of the things that's really so cool about the way Ben Johnson schemes up offense, because everyone gets the rock early, and then from there he sees, how do I piecemeal the different looks off of this to make sure I'm going to scheme up some angles for my running backs to attack.
Worth noting that wide receiver Rome Odunze is out this game with a foot injury. We kind of brought it up, but I feel like we do need to give this offensive line some love because now they're getting national credit that they might be the best offensive line in the NFL, Lou.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why they're the number 2 team when it comes to running the football, behind only Buffalo. And let me get back to Odunze. This is a big loss. This guy has been targeted more than any other wide receiver on this team right now. He's become the number 1 go-to guy for Caleb Williams. It will give DJ Moore an opportunity because his numbers are way down. Actually, they're as bad as they were since he's been a rookie in 2018. But I look at it in a positive sense. It also gives a guy like Luther Burden III the opportunity to step up.
Not only Luther Burden, Colston Loveland as well. That's one of the cool things about the amount of pass catchers who've had a role within this Bears offense. There'll be multiple players who get more targets because Rome Odunze doesn't draft.
His numbers have been down over the second half of the season, so I do think this is a good opportunity for DJ Moore, who talked about the rivalry, feeling more confident, finally being on a winning team, and not slipping, like he mentioned and called out himself for doing in Philly.
Walter Payton Man of the Year as well.
Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee. We talked about that for the More to Life Foundation. Really congratulations. We'll hear from him later in the show.
We all came in hungry, so I think just the training and things like that, it's always been motivation. So I mean, for me, being able to see the team have that success without me being out there, it just only makes you more hungry. It's like, if I can get out there and be healthy and really contribute the best way that I can, I feel like the sky is really only the limit for us.
So good to see Jalen Johnson back on the field. He is working his way back to getting back to 100%. And you can catch my full interview with him Sunday morning on Bears Game Day Live from 9:30 to 11 a.m. right here on Fox 32 Chicago. And let's talk about the Bears defense, because 26 takeaways on the year. Last week we discussed how Jalen Hurts doesn't really turn the ball over. And there you see he turns it over twice. And then Jordan Love, only 3 interceptions this season. Can the Bears defense find ways to get takeaways against Love again this week? Because he plays really, really good and really clean football, really from November on.
I'll tell you what, this guy has surprised me. Going into the season, I thought about his $220 million contract, and there was plenty of talk in the preseason about Jordan Love being an MVP-type candidate, and he has really thrown himself into the discussion with the way he has played recently. He had 4 touchdown passes at Detroit in that Thanksgiving Day game. I think it's 19 TDs and 3 interceptions. And when you ask about, well, how do you slow this guy down? I think you work on slowing Jordan Love down just like you did with Jalen Hurts. That does not mean sacks. It means putting pressure on the quarterback, getting him out of his comfortable spots on the football field. Listen, they only pressured Hurts, Big A, 1 time in that game, and they blitzed the season-high 47% of the time. If you blitz or try to blitz Jordan Love like that, he'll make you pay. He's second best in the NFL when it comes to dealing with the blitz.
And he's got such a variety of playmakers in that Green Bay offense. And like Cassie mentioned, he does this every season virtually, where he gets into the month of November and just begins to play his best football. And it's not only the playmaking, he protects the rock at a really high level. But to your question, Cass, can the Bears take the rock away? Yes, they can, because we had this discussion last week. We've been having it all throughout the season. Is this sustainable? Can they continue to take the football away? How do they possibly do it without really mounting much of a pass rush? And somehow, week in and week out, Dennis Allen schemes it up, and then here comes Kevin Byard. Here comes Nashawn Wright. Here comes a linebacker, and we're getting healthier at the second level of this Bears defense as well. They just continue to find ways to attack the football, and one of the things that ends up doing is that opponents see that on film. They see that you've got defensive backs who are willing to challenge the wide receiver. Now you got Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon back in the lineup. You see other defenders when the running back is staying up or when you're going for a QB sneak, a la the tush push, everyone coming in, poking away at that football. These are all things that now make the opponent apprehensive with how they're willing to attack you in the game.
It was interesting to hear Nashawn Wright, who won NFC Defensive Player of the Month because of
Well-deserved.
5 takeaways in the month of November. He has 8. He leads the league with that. But to hear him talk about that forced fumble and fumble recovery on the tush push in Philly, because he said that was not something that they had talked about going into that game. He was like, that was 99.9% instincts. And to hear that from someone who was cut from the Vikings last year, who was a practice squad player, is reignited and is put together again with Al Harris back here and was supposed to be a fill-in in training camp for Jalen Johnson, to just continue to show production week after week. I think he is the best story of this Bears season when you look in that locker room and who's performing at a high level. And it's just never ending for him. And he said this week his only goal in training camp was to make the 53-man roster. And now he's playing at a Pro Bowl level.
All right, how about this? Heading into week 14, he ranks first in fumble recoveries, tied for second with 5 picks, 13th in passes defended, second in Pro Bowl voting at cornerback. Ooh. He's 27 years old and is going to be an unrestricted free agent, and he's going to become very wealthy. After 3 years in Detroit, where he did basically nothing, he had 1 interception in 3 years. He follows Al Harris, as you said, comes here just for depth. They thought, you know what, he's an extra body we need in our secondary. Should we go through the injuries that this team is going through? And he has stepped up. He's only making the league minimum at his position right now with the amount of years he's played in the league, $1.1 million. Big A, he's going to make $100 million when he's a free agent next March. Oh, man, is this a great country or what?
He is in line for a payday. There's no doubt about that. He will earn every cent of whatever that is. And one of the cool things about where the secondary is at right now, as these previous starters are getting healthy, now there's the chance to mix and match. Figure out particular matchups that you like or schematically which players suit a situation even better. And against this Green Bay offense, because they can throw Christian Watson at you, they can throw Romeo Doubs at you, they can hammer away with Josh Jacobs. There's a variety of things that they can try to hit you with. And to figure out where Jordan Love is looking to maybe go with the football in certain areas of the field, now you can rotate defensive backs in and out and find matchups with that secondary that really suit the opponent. Because this is such a versatile Packers offense and their offensive mind, Matt LaFleur, schemes up things so well, I wouldn't necessarily say advantage Bears defense, but I love the health that's now in the way with this secondary.
One more note on Nashawn Wright, because he was telling this story yesterday. I thought it was so cool. He said that Richard Sherman came up to him after the game in Philly, and he said he grew up in Northern California, and Legion of Boom was kind of his era. He grew up watching Sherm because he's kind of that same tall guy. So he said that was the coolest thing, and he texted his mom, like, you're never going to believe who came up to me. Like, the innocence of that is so pure. I love it.
He seemed so real when he was talking to the media yesterday after he was named the NFC's Defensive Player of the Month, and I just so appreciate it because he said, you know what, Coach Allen gets in my face sometimes, and he cusses me out, and I just deal with it. And isn't that what being an athlete is all about, Big A? Yeah, taking the discipline from a head coach or from a defensive coordinator or from a secondary coach, but making yourself better instead of being more like, hey, who does this guy think he is talking like that to me?
Just like Eric Bieniemy on the offensive side of the football, and the detail that he's coached the running back position with, you really see it in the secondary with Al Harris. And he deserves all the flowers for what the Bears are doing on the back end when you factor in the injuries especially. And a guy like Nashawn Wright being just such an exceptional story for what the Bears have been able to accomplish this season via all the injuries that they've suffered. But to have a guy like that, and, you know, when I showed up in training camp, and I know you were there constantly, Cass, you were there as well, Lou, you know, Nashawn Wright was one of the players who none of us really knew much about, but it was a name that was getting mentioned a lot being in the mix, especially as soon as Jalen Johnson got hurt. Yeah, Terrell Smith was a part of that conversation, but it was Tyreek Stevenson and Nashawn Wright were the guys rotating with the starters at corner pretty quickly. So he was able to step into a void and fill it resoundingly.
I feel like we have to give Dennis Allen a ton of credit for what he's doing with these injuries, because you could argue this Bears defense was depleted. They're going to get TJ Edwards back this week. How much more nickel and dime do you think we see the rest of the season? Because he does have this abundance of talent in the secondary, and he's trying to get the best players on the field, and we saw it in Philly.
He has said he's going to play his best 11 players. doesn't look at it position-wise. He's going to go out there and get his best players on the football field to play defense. If that means nickel with 5 defensive backs, if it means dime with 6 defensive backs, get him out there. I'm glad, TJ. I've said it on this show. I think TJ Edwards is the glue behind this defense. I love TJ Edwards. Great to have Noah Sewell back. But you mentioned all the targets that Jordan Love has.
Looking really healthy right now is Christian Watson. And when you factor in the fact that Green Bay is willing to run the football, it's been one of my most impressive aspects of Matt LaFleur evaluating how he operates offensively. He's willing to try to pound away with the run game. Josh Jacobs is willing to pound away at that opposing defense, and this is that time of year. So you do need to be careful with how many small bodies you start to put at that second level, because TJ Edwards being healthy, Noah Sewell being healthy, if that ends up being the case in this game on Sunday, you got to make sure you have bodies out there that can stop the run.
And one thing that's good, too, about Jordan Love is that he's not only good with the short passes, the intermediate passes, he's good with the deep ball as well at all 3 phases. What does the Walter Payton legacy mean to someone, not only just in football in the NFL, but as you play for the Chicago Bears?
It means a lot. Here, it holds a lot of weight, and the person that gets nominated they better carry that weight gracefully and be on point with everything.
Shout out to DJ Moore for being the Bears nominee for the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award for his work in the Chicagoland community with his More to Life Foundation, putting in work off and on the field. He's also part of our key matchup presented by Blue Moon. Big Ant Rome Odunze, as we mentioned, out with a foot injury on Sunday. DJ Moore's numbers are down. He said he slipped a few times last week in Philly, and that won't happen again. And Xavier McKinney was called one of the best safeties the Bears will see all year by Ben Johnson.
Big A, we've talked about DJ Moore's numbers being down this season. But when you really dig in, over the course of his 8-year career, second best when it comes to yards per catch.
Yeah.
Can you throw deep against this Packers secondary and use DJ Moore?
I believe we're going to see a lot of 4 verts, Lou, to your point, because Luther Burden can threaten the third level of the defense, as can DJ Moore, and utilizing the tight end position. We've seen chunk plays for both Cole Kmet and Colston Loveland this season. It's one of the reasons the Bears have had the most explosive offense in football, because they allow Caleb Williams to attack downtown. So, yes, I think we're going to see that schemed up.
Hey, shout out to Mrs. Friedman's 3rd grade class at Butterfield School in Libertyville. They are doing a lesson plan called NFL Elementary, where they learn through the NFL, like addition. They are tracking Caleb Williams' road to 4,000 passing yards, the NFC standings. They went through an NFL draft, and I was able to go in and talk to their class about reporting on the NFL. And I know some of them are watching tonight, guys. It was the highlight of my week. They had so many questions. They wanted to make sure that I was saying hi to Caleb Williams for them. They were telling me all about their teams, but they all have backpacks and gear from the teams they drafted. It's really cool to see what they're doing. I love it.
We need producers.
Hey, call them up. I'm sure they would love to spend. The producer's in our ear right now. He's offended, but they could do the job. Hey, my player to watch, brought to you by IGS Energy this week, is Ozzie Trapillo. I feel like we haven't really talked about Micah Parsons that much. We know he's a game wrecker. Trapillo's held up against some other really good pass rushers. Going to be another really tough test on Sunday. Make sure to tune in for Bears Game Day Live Sunday morning at 9:30. We'll see you from Lambeau.